Another tragedy in the Channel. One person dead, two are missing after a small boat got into difficulties yesterday.
180 were rescued over the course of the day as the Home Office figures show that more than 2,000 migrants have arrived in the UK so far this year. Stopping the boats, as you well know, was one of the Prime Minister's top 5 pledges last year.
Just actually before we go to David Haig, a good friend of the show, sorry, David is having an issue. I've just heard in my ear with his technology. We'll go. Guys, let's talk to you about this. This broke last night. I'll be really straight with you, Alicia. We were talking about this. You know, they talk about war fatigue. You think to yourself, oh, God, again. It's human life, though, right?
With the migrants, yeah. Well, exactly, and I think lots of people just see this and think this has been going on for so long, and countless prime ministers, not just Rishi Sunak, although he's made it his main priority, maybe. Countless prime ministers before him have said that they will stop the issue of illegal migration and channel boat crossings, and it's just going up and up and up.
Yeah.
I mean, Rishi Sunak's pledge that was meant to have originally been achieved by the end of last year, 2023, obviously has not worked. And there are still migrants crossing and tragically losing their lives in the Channel.
Yeah, we wrangle, and rightly, because we're a democracy and we have to talk and argue about these things, we wrangle over the politics. And it is true that at the beginning of last year, Sunak said he was going to get laws passed so that we could stop the boats, which led, I think, some people to think he was going to stop the boats last year. Now he's boasting that he stopped them by a third, right? We've already had 2,000 crossings this year, but as you nailed it just a moment ago, this is about human life. And we can talk about it, and it's right that we try to get the policies right. You know what I think about Rwanda, it's a disaster, not going to work, it's immoral, but it's impractical. Human beings are still losing their lives. In terrible circumstances, right? I mean, drowning in the Channel is just absolutely...
But what I fail to understand repeatedly, and I'm with you about Rwanda, I'm not scared to have the debate with anybody about this because I know how angry people are because they will look... Let's look at Rochdale, right? If you can't get housing, if you're homeless, if there's no police, people in this country, whether people like this or not, will go, hold on a minute, get this sorted because we are struggling. I think it is an absolute disgrace in every which way that there are 170,000 people. I think there needs to be a debate on the difference between an illegal migrant and a refugee. I will argue till I'm blue in the face that not all of those 170,000 have escaped war-torn whatever, But I think it's a disgrace to the British people that we cannot come up with a damn processing system that says, let's get this sorted for everybody's benefit, not just for the migrants, also for the British people who are struggling.
I think that's, broadly speaking, a reasonable point of view, and there is definitely massive pressure on our infrastructure in this country, right? We know that migration seems to have a sort of a net benefit in terms of making our health service work and our economy tick over, but our infrastructure doesn't seem to be keeping up with it. So the question is, who do we blame? We definitely don't blame the most vulnerable people. Yes, we've got to secure our borders, but what else have we got to do? And government after government, including Labour governments, have failed on this, is we have to build more houses.
That's a very interesting one.
Alicia, what is currently being done, bar Rwanda? Because the government have always said that there's going to be a multi-pronged approach. And what I think really sticks with me in this horrible way is we're always talking about a deterrent, whether that's Rwanda. Incredibly, the fact that you might lose your life crossing the Channel is not deterrent enough. So what are the different strategies that the government are trying to employ to reduce that number? Because no one from any political party wants anyone to die in the Channel. And yet here again we are. It's happened overnight.
Well, that's it. And I think that's lots of people's criticism, amongst other things. With the Rwanda scheme, it's if people aren't already really massively put off by the huge risk to loss of their own life by crossing the Channel, will they be put off by the idea that potentially you might be deported to Rwanda at some point once you've probably already made it to the UK? I mean, that's the thing that I think politicians are really trying to have to answer at the moment, and lots of people just feel isn't really being approached properly. They have returns agreements with some countries, like Albania, for example.
Get some more done, then.
And that's something that the government are really boasting about and saying that it works really well. And we remember semi-recently, I think it was just the beginning of this year, in January, that Rishi Sunak boasted saying that he'd cleared the asylum backlog. And that is really where the bulk of this issue lies. There are so many people who have submitted asylum claims, but their claim hasn't been processed, so they're kind of just in limbo and stuck somewhere. So Rishi Sunak boasted that he'd cleared that backlog, but then when you actually looked into the figures, he hadn't. He cleared the backlog, the legacy backlog, which is what he called it, but there's still a lot left.
You know what Rosie just said about, you've got to be in something to want to get in a boat to go across the Channel. This is where I would disagree with a lot of people. Why, oh why, Because it's not a war, is it, France, Matthew Stadlen? Why is great? But you've got to understand the people that would say, of course they're going to get on the boats because we lay out the red carpet and give them a hotel and do whatever, and they don't do that in France. So is there not an argument to be had that if we weren't so welcoming, I'm asking you this question, that we wouldn't have this damn issue in the first place?
Look, Britain is a great country, right?
It's skint, Matthew.
It's skint, but it is a great country.
That needs to look after its own people.
Where would you rather live, France or Britain? And if you had relatives over here...
Oh, come
hang on.
But that argument, they can't all have relatives.
What we've got to try to understand is why they want to come here. And it's not because we roll out the red carpet.
I think it is in part.
Maybe they see on WhatsApp messages, you know, they see their relatives or their friends in hotels. It's partly because they have got family here.
All right, but how many of the 170,000? All right, OK, I understand that. I understand about English being the language, but you would have to understand the sentiment amongst a lot of people who are struggling, like the people in Rochdale that spoke to me, who will go, hold on a second.
I understand
France ain't war-torn. We have hotels. They give tents. No wonder they're coming, and I think that needs to be said.
We don't want to have a Calais camp in Dover, do we? I mean, we are better than that.
We need a processing system that sorts it out and sends them back.
What Rosie said I thought was really interesting. I've been debating this for however long this has been going on, and we've been talking endlessly about whether Rwanda is a deterrent or not. It's such a good point. If it is not a deterrent, the idea of losing your life in the seas, how is Rwanda going to be a deterrent?
Absolutely.
So that policy seems to be nonsense. Of course, I understand the frustrations of people who are languishing on waiting lists to get their house, their council house or whatever. These are real issues that have to be taken seriously. All I'm saying is, let's not demonise the desperate people who want to get here, because they are desperate. Yes, France is also a great country, but they're living in terrible conditions in Northern France. The answer to that is not to create terrible conditions here.
OK, but what if we did terrible conditions here?
No, we shouldn't, because it's inhuman. We have to be a civilised society. What we need to do is try to get safe routes and try and secure our borders. So you've got to be tough by getting a proper immigration service to get people out in the seas, work with France, try to stop these boats coming over. But once people do get here, we have to treat them like human beings.
Guys, thank you so much. We could talk about it forever. Interesting, really great. Thank you both very much.
People care about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely they do. Absolutely, pal.